Good morning. Today is June 22nd. It's been about a month since the last video, so it's time to give you an update on how the garden's growing. So the first row of tomatoes looking really good. These are mostly a beefsteak type variety in that area there. So it's going to still be a week or two before we start to get more. We actually get ripe tomatoes. Squash, the summer squash, I've been picking now for about 3 weeks or so, and they've been doing really very well. Short bed of peppers, but I'm not sure I had the shade cloth up on the sweet peppers last month. They'll start to get sunburn if I don't have shade on the western exposure and direct in the middle of the day sun. But they're ready to pick. You can see here's some nice purple ones and yellow. These are gypsy type, and those are Mexican purple. I'm also on the trellis tomatoes that were on the strings, like if in a greenhouse. These are pretty ugly looking shade I added on there. I didn't really have much in the way of shade cloth. I need to get something, but it's again to protect against sun scald on the tomatoes. But as you can see, they're growing pretty well. You might have seen individual photos on the website. But the trusses of these trellis tomatoes are gorgeous and doing fantastic. So I'm real excited about that. Here's some more beefsteak type. I planted a few weeks later, about a month later from the others. They're doing really well. And another row of tomatoes, of course. These are in cages, and I did in all the tomatoes I pruned the bottom first suckers up until the first flower, and then I mostly let things go. I did some pruning afterwards, but sparingly, and now they're just let them grow up. Here's my onions. Some have gone to seed, which I've taken out and we've been eating. And on the back of the bed, you see it's empty. That's where I picked garlic. This bed, it was all garlic. There's only one small area of garlic that were later, and I'm going to be picking those here this weekend. But the rest of the garlic are in storage and curing. This row of tomatoes was an early experiment. I planted these out a month before everything else. We've been picking tomatoes from here for about a week and a half or so. The cherry tomatoes maybe even a couple of weeks. And these are all 4th of July, early girl type, new girl type, not early girl, but new girl, and then sun golds. And all of which are doing pretty well. We didn't have any major frost, even though I had these, if you recall, I had these covered in plastic at one point for the possibility of frost, but it never really happened. But next year, I may do a couple of rows this way. It's fun to have tomatoes early. This row of tomatoes is mostly my determinate row of tomatoes. As you can tell, from here this way are a lot shorter in cages. And they're going to produce quite a few tomatoes, but mostly all at once. These are more cherry tomatoes. I needed another space to put cherry tomatoes. Wanted to show you the kiwis. They're growing extremely well this year. I have both the Hayward type, which is what you find in the store, and then I have these colder weather varieties over on this side. So these are Hayward. This is the male here, and the female is down this way. Let's go look at some of the fruit of the female, the Hayward. As you can see, they're doing pretty well. And here's some more underneath, and all throughout. This is the cold variety, cold weather variety, as well as this one type, and they make much smaller kiwi fruit. You could see them here, I hope, on the video. I hope it comes through. But they're a lot smaller fruit. They're smooth skinned, and you eat them like a berry once they get ripe. They're very, very sweet. And you see, they're just loaded here. These little winter berries, very nice. Let's take a look at the other half of the garden. Got some tomatoes here. Don't seem to be doing as well. Maybe the soil here is not is kind of tired this year. I'm going to have to refurbish. I'll be refurbishing all my beds this winter. More summer squash we've been picking, and again the tomatoes. I'll swing over here, and you can see some of these smaller plum are getting ripe. They're called Juliet. And these are my cucumbers, and the cucumbers have done extremely well this year. I did a lot of pruning initially, which got them off to a very good start. So they had fruit a little bit later, and I think that made a big difference in the plant size for the rest of the fruit. This is mostly a cherry tomato row here I planted. We got some different types of cherries, some yellow, some orange and orange plum type, red, yellow cherries, etc. And another row of peppers. I ran out of shade cloth and wasn't able to cover these. The first two here, these are kind of a warm type called Zavery. They make a wonderful, just a slight heat, and it's wonderful when they get ripe and you grill them as well. And this is cayenne peppers and jalapenos next to them. And that's really all the hot ones that I've grown. The rest of these are a sweet type of pepper, mostly a frying peppers of some form or another. And again, at the end of the rows, we'd been transplanting early on in the year. The sunflowers came up. You noticed around the whole garden, you saw all the sunflowers. They came up volunteer from last year's seed, and we transplanted them out into different places. I put them at the end of rows and places they're get out of the way, and I just think they're fantastic looking. And of course, another row of tomatoes. I have some shade cloth on this side, and the earliest zucchini that I put in, we've been picking. And I'll be putting together a video of the photos in a slideshow form of the building of the shed. So we'll see how that's going to progress. But yesterday I put up some side plywood. These are more onion beds, leftovers from what I planted in the raised beds. But they're doing just as good and better as the raised bed. This is a nicely prepared raised bed, but just not in a box. Doing the lasagna method, you can see that on the website, how I did 2 years ago, created this bed. But some of them had gone to seed, of which again we used them up, and but these will look like they're going to be ones that I'll be picking when more of them drop, and we'll dry them up for storage. These are 6 beds that I added on this winter, again using the lasagna method of making up the beds. Mostly I was trying to get more space for tomatoes, and as you can see, they're really liking the raised beds. This bed here is empty right now. Will be summer squash. I'll be planting out shortly. I've got new plants coming up in the greenhouse cold frame, and of course more tomatoes. This bed here is my sweet potato bed, and we have a ruby red potato here, and then I don't know the brand, but it's a yellow potato at the far end, and they're growing pretty well. They're enjoying the raised bed with the plastic. Did the plastic this year to keep them under control, keep the weeds out. The taller ones here were planted earlier than these here, and I started the slips myself from organic potatoes from the store, actually. I thought you'd like to see these. These are a thornless prickly pear cactus developed by Luther Burbank. These came from Luther Burbank's house up in Santa Rosa area, and I've had these in a pot for quite a few years, probably about 15 years or so, a very small pot together. They kind of divided, but now they've shot up because I transplanted them out here just a couple of months ago, and they're just growing gangbusters. So they're out in the veggie garden because the young pads can be eaten and fried up nicely, and they have fruit, which is very nice. So they're both vegetable and a fruit. So it's anyway, that's a nice place for them out here in the corner, and they're doing very well. There's not much in the greenhouse this time of year, but I do have some pots of basil going. I'll be putting those out in the farm stand. So we're starting. These here are about ready to go, and these babies here are only about a week or week and a half old or so. So they'll be taking over a little bit later, and I'll probably be starting some others up this week as well. In the cold frame, I started seeds of cucumber and summer squash. These are for a second cropping, and they'll be ready to put out in a week or so into some free beds. Over here is a type of cucumber from South America, and it's I think it's called a choca, but I'll have to confirm that, and I'll put that in the comments below. But thank you, Sue, for the seeds. We'll see how they go. I think they'll be we should be doing just fine as we have a long season here. And if you'd like some sweet potato slips, well, I've got a lot of them left over. Yeah, everyone have a nice day.